John Amata and David Nyworth. Okay, I'm the worst with names, and I have the worst. Okay. Of course, and Weiger and I say, I know. Maybe it's my way of striking back. But anyway. Okay. All right. Well, let's go.
Hold on. Okay.
Okay. Is this on as well?
Sure.
All right. This is how we do it in the conventions. We just move things around. Yeah. Let's do that. Okay. Now, John.
Don't be touching my mic.
Okay. It is John Amato, so I better watch myself. And John is from New York. John's the founder and the editor of Crooks and Liars, which is a gigantic website, one of the top liberal blogs in the country. And Dave has written for Washington Post, Salon, Seattle Magazine, Southern Poverty Law Center's Intelligence Report, etc. And you guys have written a book together, Over the Cliff. Obama's election drove the American right insane. Okay, so John, let's start with you. How were they driven insane?
Well, it's pretty fascinating. Actually, I want Dave to start off because he has his take, and then I'll follow up on it.
Sure. Well, we mean insane somewhat rhetorically.
Really? Yeah. Because I saw a couple of the signs, and have you seen Orly Tights?
Right.
Could you imagine if she's our Secretary of State? You guys both live in California.
No, I live in Seattle.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
You'll have to bring your birth certificate to take a deposit out. Take some money out of your ATM. It's like, please scan your birth certificate.
But it is insane to believe things that are provably untrue. And the Tea Party movement is a movement of people full of people who believe lots of things that are provably untrue, and you can show them the evidence, and they won't budge in their beliefs one bit, and that's a kind of insanity. No, but not only that, the irrationality and the extremism is just really predominant, really welling up within the right in a way that haven't seen since probably the 1920s. And it is a form of right-wing populism.
And I'll just explain also, the reason that triggered my interest and which sort of started the book was, the fact is, and it's not like a policy legislative or oriented book, okay? It's about ideology, and it's about movement conservatism and their reaction. When Obama won election, the country was celebrating, right? I mean, he had a mandate, and people were going, this is amazing, the first African-American president elected. It's incredible. And all of a sudden, there was this whiplash political effect where immediately they tried to delegitimize him. And I've said this many times, which is, during his swearing in, Chris Wallace, who's supposed to be their big straight newsman, is trying to say that Obama wasn't even the president because they botched the swearing in ceremony. So as soon as on his inauguration, they're already smearing him. And I realized what was going to happen, and it sort of triggered, like, well, you know what? First, we're going to be tracking this. And then as it unfolded, I talked to Dave and said, this is a phenomenon that's actually been repeated before. Well, we can talk about that, but we need to capture this piece of history because it's important to the narrative of the country. And that was sort of how we collaborated on the new book.
Is there, there's also violence around this, right? Yeah, I mean, there's physical acts. Right. So tell us about that a little bit.
Well, beginning with, actually even before the election, we had things like the guy walking into the church in Knoxville, Tennessee, and opening fire because he wanted to kill as many liberals as possible. Then we had, Dr.
I'm going to stop you right there. And I want to get to the other cases, too.
Yeah.
But when, they found whose books in that guy's house?
Bernie Goldberg.
He cites Bernie Goldberg's book in his manifesto, but when they went to his apartment, they found it full of Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly and Rush Limbaugh books.
So now, is it fair to hold those guys in any way responsible, or is that not fair because it's just a random fan? What could they do?
No, when there's a direct connection between the action and the incitement that's preceded it, there's not a criminal culpability, but there certainly is moral culpability.
But guys, let's say one of our fans did something crazy. I'd hate that.
Okay, but have you seen it? But let's explain this. Like, as you read through the book, it's not just like one incident here as the right tries to portray. Right? Remember when Dr. Tiller was murdered, when you look at Bill O'Reilly's behavior, he cited Dr. Tiller's name 42 segments and called him the baby killer 24, and actively, like, on his radio show would say, like, to say, well, if I was there, I would, and insinuate that he would do violence. Now, when you look at the book, if we just listed every hate crime, arson, and murder that happened, even in the first 2 weeks of Obama's election, that would be the whole book.
How many? What's the numbers we're talking?
There were about 200 in the 2 weeks after, or in the first month after Obama's election.
Wow.
200.
Really?
Yeah, the SPLC.
What counts among that 200?
Southern Poverty Law Center counted them up, tallied them up. And
so what counts there? Like, what do they count?
Well, everything from the nooses showing up on the University of Texas campus to people's apartment doors being torched, to people having, people being, and then there were the guys in New York City who went on the hate crimes rampage and were just going to assault as many black people as possible.
Right. Then they actually they ran over a guy thinking he was black, and he turned out to be white. And they were and it was in Staten Island. I mean, this is so it's like this triggered violence from this rhetoric that emanates from the right, and it's not some, like they try to say, a random act. We can go to the Richard Poplawski incident, in Pittsburgh, who shot 3 police officers. Well, why did he do it? One of his big paranoid delusions was that Obama was going to take his guns. Now,
and how did he get that delusion? He got it from watching Glenn Beck. He actually posted Glenn Beck videos on the Stormfront website.
Mm-hmm.
So,
look, we've covered it 100 times. I've seen it on Crooks and Liars 100 times. These guys keep saying the same things. It's not just Glenn Beck. It's all over the country. Right. Local conservative talk show hosts saying, they're coming for your guns. They're coming for your guns. They're going to impinge upon your liberties. By the way, the one time they actually do in Arizona, and they ask you for your papers, like we're East Germany, they, of course, it's only Latinos there in favor of that.
That's fine.
Right. But putting that aside, so these guys are putting out that message in 100 different ways throughout the country. Right. But they have their First Amendment rights. So what the hell are we supposed to do about it?
We're supposed to stand up to it. That's what this book's about. We're about, you stand up, just as there's not criminal culpability, it does come down to moral culpability, and that's where our role as citizens comes in. It's important for us as citizens to stand up. That was the thing Bill Clinton said in his famous, now infamous speech after the Oklahoma City bombing. He said, the speech where he supposedly blamed it on Rush Limbaugh, but actually all he said was that when people speak up, say these irresponsible things, it's our responsibility as citizens to stand up and say no, say this is wrong, and to stand up to it. If we remain silent, we concede it.
See, and what's also happening with, when we look at Fox News, and we have a section on it, the book isn't like only about Fox News, it's a part of it. But it's the first time in history where there's been this apparatus to attack a newly elected president, to form an opposing party against him as soon as he was elected, and by using this insane rhetoric over and over again, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, and what I am doing is that causing people to fly their plane into the IRS building, right?
And right after that, Steve King, totally unapologetic, says, the IRS was in my kitchen, and I think they should be abolished and eliminated. Just not in exactly this way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And of course, Congressman from Iowa. So I want to keep talking about what we can do about it. Look, I can give you 100 stats, but one that always jumps out at me is 52% of Republicans believe that Acorn stole the election for Obama.
Yep.
That's certifiably insane. Okay, it's not within miles of true. So who's at fault here for that number? I mean, obviously the Becks and the Fox News of the world drove that message, right?
Right.
So I get that part of it. But does the media have a responsibility to fight back? And should CNN be saying, no, the Acorn didn't steal any election?
That's right. They absolutely should, and they've completely abdicated that responsibility.
See, I think CNN would turn around and say to you guys, we don't have any such responsibility. What nonsense Fox News is saying is their problem, not our problem.
Right, no. But they have, in other words, they're supposed to be a news operation, okay? And there used to be a thing, there was a great op-ed in the Miami Herald that we quoted in the book, when the journalist talked about news judgment. And see, what we talk about in this book is that these far-right, extreme, paranoid, black helicopter beliefs that used to be in these backroom meetings in Montana, Freeman meetings, are now being mainstreamed and transmitted to America via Fox, via Rush Limbaugh, right? And it's so deadly and dangerous, and we need, what we do, as you know, is we hold the press accountable. Instead of, like, if it's just transmitted on Fox alone, it won't have the resonance. But if then CNN's running segments, if MSNBC's even like bringing up the question, right? Did like they do this? Did Acorn steal the election? Right? Like they'll ask that question. Why is that even a segment? Right? So it goes on, and it perpetuates these fantasies.
But John, it does not set up us in a slightly unwinnable situation, because if Fox has a crazy theory, doesn't CNN or MSNBC have to ask the question, did Acorn steal the election?
No, they do not.
I mean,
what they could do then is just say, put up, how about doing a segment on what Acorn actually does, how many employees work there, what their role is. Why don't you just do a few segments on what they are instead of what they are not?
I have to pause there just to say,
you know what I'm saying?
No, just to say that point is indisputable.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't do a single segment telling us exactly what Acorn actually does.
Or is.
Right.
I mean, it's unconscionable, as they beat him up with a pimp video that turned out not to be a pimp video, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I'll tell you about my Breitbart meeting another time, because I did a panel with him and it was pretty interesting. But again, what's there is Dave talks all the time. There's a moral culpability, but when people, as soon as Obama was running, they tied him to Acorn immediately, because they realized, first, one of the things is to try to destroy an organization that helps the poor and the not so well off. So they immediately set that narrative before any of this ever happened. But then when you look at Congress and the cowards in Congress, to actually defund them was criminal in my eyes.
Yeah, let me ask you a last question about that, as we're running close to short on time here. And the book, by the way, everybody, is Over the Cliff, How Obama's Election Drove the American Right Insane. John Amato from Crooks and Liars, and Dave Nywart as well on the book. Is it Obama's fault? I mean, we had a guy on here tell us about Acorn. He worked with Acorn. When they asked him about it, he basically throws him under the bus by saying, well, Acorn, never heard of Acorn. What's Acorn, right?
Right.
And the Democrats who then vote against Acorn, I don't want to just say Obama. Is it, I mean, is it primarily their fault for not fighting for their side?
There certainly is a lot of cowardice going on there. I mean, just like he threw Van Jones under the bus, too. There's been a real lack of moral courage in this administration, including on, things like the DHS report that was perfectly accurate on right-wing extremism. They just completely caved on it. And, in the year after they issued it, guess what? It was all proven true. One of the things I want to stress is that this isn't just a moral issue; it's also a matter of professional ethics when it comes to Fox News. I've been a working journalist since 1978, and I can tell you there has been a complete degradation of the internal accountability mechanism that used to exist within the journalism profession. Fox News has completely destroyed it, and I don't know what we're going to be able to do about it.
All right, we got to leave it right there. John and Dave, thank you so much for joining us on The Interest. Really appreciate it.
Good to see you,
Always
my
great
buddy.
to have you guys.